Hello again, Packaholics. About a month ago, I did a timeout video telling you a story about when I was a couple decades younger doing baseball card shows for a living down in the South. And I made a video about Jerry Koosman and Harmon Killebrew and Mudcat Grant and Tug McGraw. I hope you enjoyed that one. Well, when I was done with that, I promised you that I'd have another one, pretty soon, and, well, today's the day. This one's going to be entitled The Tale of Two Babe Ruth Autographs. But I probably should entitle it Education is a Wonderful Thing. Anyhow, I was doing a show down in Clearwater, Florida at a local mall, and an old man came in the 60s or 70s wanting to sell some stuff, and he asked the promoter who dealt in old stuff, and of course the promoter brought him directly over to my table, which I didn't mind. I looked at a bunch of stuff and I really didn't have any interest in, and the guy was getting kind of exasperated and says, well, how about a Babe Ruth autographed baseball? Would you be interested in one of those? So, naturally I responded with something like, does a one-legged duck swim in a circle? So he reaches in the bag, pulls out the baseball and hands it to me. Now, the ball's pretty old, had definitely some wear on it, and it was kind of dirty. But, of course, the dealers on either side of my table come rushing over to see what it is that I'm going to get my paws on next. And I look at the autograph firsthand, and it looked to me like it was dead nuts. I had owned Ruth autographs in the past and was pretty good at spotting, real ones. And I was getting kind of excited, figuring I was going to have to reach in my pocket and pull out a few $100. But I waited and looked at it under, better light and magnification. Saw something underneath the dirt. So I asked the guy, I said, how did you get this ball? And he says, well, back when I was young, playing after World War II, I was in a Little League tournament, and I was named Most Valuable Player, and this was the prize that I got for it. Hey, great story. Well, I hand the ball back to him. He says, well, what are you going to give me for it? And I says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $5, and the next kid walking by can get to play with it out in the parking lot. Well, he gets all kinds of angry and pissed off, wanting to crawl over the table at me, which wouldn't be a good idea because at that time I'm like 6'2", 280. And the other dealers are laughing. They don't know why I didn't want it, but all they knew is the guy was getting real angry at me. He was calling me a thief and a liar, and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, and blah, blah, blah. And I just told the guys, look, it's not real. You know it's not real. You sure as hell didn't get in a Little League tournament. Just go away. Well, I thought that was the end of it, but a couple hours later, a dealer from the other end of the mall comes running down to my table and says, Billy, man, you ain't going to believe what I just bought. Best buy of my entire life. I stole it. And I look at his hand, and I look at Tony, and I says, man, tell me you didn't buy a Babe Ruth autographed baseball. He says, you saw it? And I says, yep. And he says, you didn't buy it? And I go, nope. And I said, just out of curiosity, tell me how much you spent for the best buy of your entire life. He says, well, I paid $200 for it. I said, well, that would have been a great price if it were real. And he's got this sick look on his face. He says, well, what makes you think it's not real? So I take the ball, and I show him under magnification. I said, see this blue stamp here? It says Made in Taiwan. He says, well, yeah, they make baseballs in Taiwan. I says, well, you're absolutely right, they do. But Babe Ruth died in 1948. Not only was he not signing baseballs made in Taiwan in 1948, Taiwan didn't even exist yet. It would have made a baseball for him to sign. So, of course, everybody gets a big laugh out of it. Lesson learned, education's a wonderful thing. And while I'm on Babe Ruth autographs, couple years later, I look at another dealer's display case at a show in St. Petersburg, Florida. He had a Babe Ruth autographed baseball card in there, priced for $500. Somebody told me about it. I went over, I looked at it, I immediately busted out laughing. called over the promoter of that show. I said, take a look at this. He says, oh my God. So while this dealer had gone to the food court to get him some lunch, I made up a sign and put it on front of his table and says, John Sports Cards, home of authentic autographs while you wait. And boy, he come back and saw that sign and he didn't like it much. And he says, what's the problem? I says, you got a 1961 Flair baseball card of Babe Ruth in there, autographed in blue Sharpie. What the hell do you think is wrong? Duh. Anyways, both true stories. Before you start getting involved in stuff, you better educate yourself a little bit better. Okay, up here's a subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I trade for stuff that is not PC material that you may have seen in previous videos. Just PM me, we'll get it worked out. I don't know when the next true story is going to be, but I'm sure it'll be sooner or later. Thanks for the view. Hope you enjoyed it. Be, more than welcome to comment below. Say bye.